Hello, this is Steve Ramona, your host for Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. I want to thank our sponsors, Infone, and with Infone, you can place your business on everybody's cell phone, turn their business into a web app, and with a click of a button, they'll have access to you 24/7. And also Pantheon.fm. Have you ever thought about monetizing and taking your podcast to the next level? Well, Pantheon can do that. Let us show you how. Reach out to Steve Ramona, the host, at infone.co/SR1, and I will go over with you how you can make your podcast really stand out. Let's enjoy the show. Thanks again, everybody. Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. This is your host, Steve Ramona, and I am really fired up. Some of you know me. I'm a big sports guy, played myself, but I've got a guest today that's going to meld sports into your life and the lessons you're going to learn, the tragedy that happened, and how he came from this tragedy. You're going to learn a lot today. Welcome, Corey, to the show.
Steve, thank you so very much for having me on the show and for that wonderful introduction.
Oh, you're welcome. Let's jump into it because this is a story. It's got a lot of ups and downs, like life, peaks and valleys. Let's start at the very beginning of the story.
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about my background. I'm originally from Buffalo, New York, single parent household. My mom and I have a brother and a sister. Started playing sports when I was young, and I decided early on that sports was going to be my way out of Buffalo, New York. Fast forward to high school, I did pretty well, and I got what I thought was a scholarship to Baylor University in Waco, Texas. A year later, after my freshman year, it was revealed that I actually didn't have a scholarship. And unfortunately, one of my teammates was murdered by another teammate, and that brought on a whirlwind of additional issues and challenges for me in my life and where I came from. And that's a good starting point about what happened.
It's great. So, of course, that's turmoil. The team's up in uproar. What bad decisions did you make that came from all this? Your dream is taken away from you, and it probably felt like seconds.
Yeah, so at the time when the tragedy at Baylor happened, nothing had ever happened like that in college sports. There was nothing in athletics where one teammate murdered another, right? And justifiably, we all focus on that, but the collateral damage, the people surrounding that story, such as myself, we were affected negatively by it. And mental health wasn't something that was talked about, and I felt that I had mental health issues as a result of that tragedy, and I just started to just make very, very poor decisions. I felt that life was unfair. I didn't feel like anyone thought about my best interest or what was going to happen to Corey, right? And so I started to do really destructive things. Just being bitter and young, and I look back on it now, Steve, and some of it I'm actually ashamed of, but it helped me grow into a better person to where I am today.
Yeah, it'd be hard to blame you not to. I mean, it's sad you went that direction, but I mean, this is, like you said, it's never happened in college sports before, so it's all new territory. And I believe we talked in the green room in our previous meeting. PTSD came involved with this a little bit for you.
Well, yeah, certainly, right? And so imagine this, right? Kid from inner city anywhere across the United States, right? You're surrounded by gun violence. So that isn't necessarily something new. But in those environments, you always have kids or young men or young women who see themselves wanting more, who look at the world around them and say, hey, I want more out of life, and I know that I'm capable of doing more. So you follow steps and a process to get yourself out of that situation, right? So the first person in my family to actually go to college. So I couldn't rationalize how God would put me in a position to get out of all those things that I've came through to make it to a college campus in Texas, nonetheless. The polar opposite, no pun intended, of Buffalo, New York, right? Um, and and I'm still dealing with gun violence. And I could not wrap my head around that. And you know, Steve, I almost felt like I was cursed, actually. I felt like, you know, maybe I'm destined to just be surrounded by this type of thing. That's how my mind was working. It was a flaw, but it was a mental health issue. But I didn't know, you know, and no one asked, quite
Yeah.
frankly.
Yeah. Now, with that, and I appreciate you being very transparent, because it's tough. I mean, nowadays, people are more and more talking about, which is good. But with mental
Yeah.
health or PTSD, support is so important. Where'd your support come from to get you out of it?
Well, again, and I'll allow some grace to those institutions. They didn't know how to handle a situation like that, and in fact, mental health or speaking about mental health related issues in an athletic context is it was you didn't do that at the time, right? And so they didn't really provide us with much help, right? They may have had someone come in and talk to us once, but for me, I just kind of carried it, and I would dip in and out of depressions, and you know, and just look at the world like doom and gloom. But I met my wife in college. I met some really, really fantastic people. I mean, just great people that I talk to this day, coaches and mentors, and they spoke life into me, and you know, and that really helped me overcome a lot of those mental challenges and obstacles that I was dealing with, quite frankly.
Yeah. So the NCAA connections come down. The team is going to get ripped up, it sounds like, and just because of multiple things. How did that affect you when you finally got that? Oh my God, this team, I come from Buffalo. The NCAA is coming down hard on us. What do they call it? What do they call I forget that phrase. Um,
Yeah. Oh, the violations, NCAA violations.
Violations. That's it.
Yeah.
So you hear that for the first time. What does Corey do?
Well, I felt hopeless. I felt like a victim. It's hard not to feel like a victim. And to some extent, I probably was a victim, right?
Mhm.
But I felt completely helpless. And then here are these people. The power dynamic was insane when you really think about it, right? The NCAA, probably billion-dollar not for profit organization. They have the best and the brightest lawyers money can buy. If I'm not mistaken, maybe the lawyer that came in with us, I think used to work for the Department of Justice, right? And so here's an attorney grilling me and asking me questions about ways that I could have violated the NCAA bylaws, right? And this person is just doing their job. But to me, it felt like I was being treated unfairly, right? And the law can be kind of, in any context, bylaws or laws, it can kind of be tough. And I was just a kid. So that compounded issues that I was already feeling, right? Not to add too much to it, but liability, right? So now this situation happens with all of these players at this particular school. Well, Baylor doesn't want to be held liable. The NCAA doesn't want to be held liable. And so it seemed like everyone was playing the blame game, right? And so the axe ultimately fell on me. and I got suspended for a couple of games. Our season, actually, when we played that year, none of our games counted, so we weren't able to qualify for the NCAA tournament. And again, just dreams can continuously shattered. Um, and yeah, just continue to just push and push and push.
So did this happen your sophomore year? What year did it happen?
Yeah, so the tragedy happened my freshman year.
Freshman. Okay.
The violations, yeah, the violations happened my sophomore year.
So you're 18, 19, you're young, and you got NCAA people coming down on you, the school's coming down on you. They're all this is happening, and it's tragic all across the
Mhm.
board, but especially for you, a young guy from all the way from Buffalo. And then you make the decision. I mean, here's your dream, and you make the decision to transfer. Why?
Yeah. Well, so the tragedy happened freshman year, sophomore year, these violations, and I'm kind of just going through the motions. I kind of felt like the wind got knocked out of me. I didn't have the same fire in my belly to pursue sports, and I also mentioned that I was doing just very very reckless behavior. I'd skip class. I was getting into fights.
Yeah.
And the new coaching staff that came in, and sort of like a new administration in politics, they want to clean shop, they want to clean house, you know. And I think like players like myself, especially me, I represented something, a part of the old regime, not the direction in which the organization was looking to go. And I didn't help myself out anymore, Steve. I was skipping class, and I failed the drug test. And the coach brought me in, and I was like crying, man. I'm like, yo, please don't send me back. I'm like breaking down. He's like, yo, this is gonna be the best thing for you. And I had to call back home, and now I felt disgraced, felt like a failure, right? And now, um, another part of that, I knew that I could blame no one else but myself. That was while all those things were happening outside of me, right? I then made a decision to do something that I knew I shouldn't have been doing. And I got shipped back to Buffalo, New York.
And it's interesting, Corey. It's why I love your attitude and you as a person. And we'll talk about your success because people need to hear that. Is it really wasn't you? Is one guy made a decision and affected all these players and coaches and trainers and the college kids that were interns helping with that. All those people in the program got blown up. But you're right. It did affect you, and you made these decisions. And I love that you own it up to it, because a lot of people wouldn't like, hey, I'm getting mad. I'm getting in fights because of this guy who shot this guy. But again, you ultimately figure out, and that's where it takes the support. And I love about your wife and those type of things. So you transfer. Where did you go? What happened next?
Oh, so I transferred from Baylor to a Jesuit school in Buffalo, New York, Canisius College. And here's a recurring theme, right? All that adversity. And there was a coach in Buffalo. He said, "Hey, man, I've been watching you since high school." He was now coaching at this college, Canisius College, Coach Michael McDonald. And he said, "Hey, look, man, I know you got kicked out. Don't bring any of that stuff here, man. We'll give you another chance." Right. So he's like, "Hey, prove that you want to make it. I went to summer school." He's like, "I know you're really, really smart. You got to give me at least," he's like, "Everyone on my team has a 3.0. NCAA requires a 2.5. You have to have a 3.0. Maybe go to summer school just to prove that I wanted to be a part of this program." Coach Mike McDonald, he and I are still friends to this day. And actually, he gave me my first job outside of college. It was great. But yeah, so I transferred from Baylor to Canisius College under Mike McDonald.
And there's the
Definitely.
support I mentioned earlier that we all need. That's the life lesson here. Mike McDonald became your angel to say, hey, but he made it hard. He didn't say, no, I feel bad for you. Corey, jump in and let's start playing. He said, hey, you got to follow my rules, which you weren't doing at Baylor, but here's the rules. And you jumped all in, right?
One of many. Yeah, one of many, one of many. And because as a man, you do need discipline. And I was thinking about our conversation. It's like, how do you explain this to people? And I don't know, maybe I'm making this up, but there is something sacred about younger men speaking to much older men and the wisdom that they can impart on them. And and Coach Mike McDonald is just one of the many people who came to support me. But these people were much older than me. And while I was going through these tragedies, they would just impart wisdom on me and give me a perspective or a way to see the world that I didn't consider. And it changed.
Yeah. And this could, if you didn't meet Michael McDonald and these other gentlemen, and I agree with you that when I was young, I was very impressionable, but I listened. That's my whole story, but it's not about me today. But this could have been very tragic for Corey Herring if you didn't meet these people, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And, and we talked about this a little bit too, Steve. I continue to make mistakes. I graduated from Canisius College, and during the time, once I graduated, senior year, I had a kid, right? So now this adds another complexity to my life. I'm not living for myself now. I'm living for this new piece of life that I brought into this world. So you have to man up.
Amen.
Look, he has something to be proud of. I have a college degree. I know that's powerful, and it was during the Great Recession. I couldn't find a job. And I couldn't find a job. And I wound up being homeless, man, in Buffalo, just roaming around, trying to figure life out, sleeping on different people's couches and down at the shelter at times. And let me add a little bit more to that. The challenge was I spent so much of my time focusing on sports. Transitioning from sports was like retirement. There was no soft landing. It was, hey, it's just like a straight break. And so I didn't have any work experience. I didn't know anything about maintaining a work schedule. Of course, I had skills, but I didn't demonstrate those skills. I had a college degree, but I didn't have any work history. But these were all facts of life that I was unaware of, and I had to, I started feeling bad for myself and started making bad decisions even more because it was easy. It really was. It was easier to make bad decisions than to try to work out the kinks for myself, and that's what I did.
So, audience, I don't want you to think, hey, I brought Corey on because his whole life is gloom and doom. This is the power of the Lord and the support of people. So, you're part of a basketball team. It's your dream. Baylor's a top school, basketball school. The shooting happens. You get transfer. You have to transfer out. You get to Canisius College. You can start playing basketball again, right? So now you're back to your dream, and you're close to home. And Corey's riding high. He's got everything he wants. You get done with that, and another tragedy hits. You're homeless.
Yes.
What does Corey do to be where he is today?
Yeah, I mean, there was a particular situation that happened. Was around a bunch of people in a place I probably shouldn't have been at, and was just kind of in the moment. And I was looking around, and something just kind of spoke to me, and I said, "This is not. There has to be something better." And then I just sort of started doing calculations. Hey, what can I do to get my life back on track? How can I regain what I felt like I lost? Right? You are special. There's something special about you. You wouldn't have been able to go through all those things if you weren't unique. And so I made a choice in that particular moment when I was in that place. And I said, well, okay, here, what do I know how to do? I know sports. Let me take what I already have and try to build from there, just one step at a time. And so I started to go up to a local recreational center, actually the University of Buffalo, and I would just take kids who were there playing pickup ball and say, "Hey, come here, man. Let me you guys like basketball? You know who I am? Yeah, we know who you are. Here, let me." So I started to. It's funny. I got something back by giving to more people. So I started to essentially be a mentor and a coach to kids in the community, and do it for free. I had a great deal of knowledge, and I started to really get a name for myself. Like, hey, you want Corey Herring to train your kid because he is just fantastic. The kids listen to him. He knows what he's talking about. And I'll never forget this. I'm at this recreational center in Buffalo called Gloria J. Parks, and in walks Coach Mack. Hey man, I've been looking for you. What are you talking about, Coach Mack? At this time, he wasn't really looking for me, just busting chops. But he goes, he just got a new job at a school, at a college, and he said, "Hey man, I think we're really good. Would you want to come be an assistant coach?" And he offered me an assistant coaching job on his team. And I came in, I met with the team, and that year we went to the NCAA tournament, and so we did really well. And that little opportunity led to another opportunity where I went on to another college, and that was just in my coaching career. But yeah, man, I just one step at a time.
Yeah, Corey, you're so amazing. And listeners, understand he's two tragedies: be homeless and be involved with being kicked out of your dream. There's only a little bit lower, won't get into that. But you kept the door open, even though you're homeless, you're broke, you're trying to find your next meal, trying to find the next place you live. And you know what I love what you just said? You started giving and your whole world changed.
Yeah.
Did your attitude change as well?
Well, making bad decisions, yeah. I mean,
Yep.
at a point, because at a point, making bad decisions, it actually became harder to make bad decisions, right? Now you're giving back, and people adore you. You're someone to admire. You're gonna jeopardize that admiration, right? And so it's really deep stuff, man.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, it is. And it's I love to delve into that, because this is a lesson for anybody out there that's broken, that's struggling, whether maybe you're listening, you're homeless, maybe you're struggling financially or struggling. You've given us hope where there's could be no hope. You could have make a wrong turn somewhere and you wouldn't be sitting with me here today. I'm just going to be flat out open with that, because it's true. Now it's true for anybody, but even you. And you pulled your pants up and you mentored kids.
Yeah, and starting out with just like a belief.
Yeah.
Right, having imagination, and that belief transferred to where other people started to believe in me, and it was just kind of like a flywheel effect. And yeah, there's more. So
yeah, no, absolutely. Let's do a shout out. I know somebody's going, I got to talk to Corey. How can they get a hold of you?
I'm really on LinkedIn, a great deal. I'm always responsive, so you can just connect with me on LinkedIn, send me a note, I'll respond, and we can just build and chop it up.
So I'm going to add to that. I'm going to, live the words of servant heart. This is what I'm going to do. Listeners, the first 5 people that reach out to Corey, just mention my name of the podcast. Doesn't matter. So that you came from this show. I'm going to give you a $20 Amazon gift card. And that will open doors for you, but it'll open doors so Corey can keep mentoring, because he's still mentoring today. He's mentored me in our first meeting. We didn't know each other from Blue, and we mentored each other. And That's another lesson I want listeners to understand. Go out and serve somebody. You're having a tragic, bad day. I hope you're not having a bad days like Corey had. You were home, but it doesn't matter. You're having a bad day. Go out, find somebody to serve. Find somebody to mentor. Go help that lady in the grocery store. Your life will change, just like Corey's did.
Yeah.
Well, we're running out of time here. We're going to bring Corey back because this guy's flourishing now. His life has changed. He's doing great. And we're going to talk about that to show you can go from one situation that's very tragic and be just top of the world, helping other people get top of the world. God bless you, Corey. I thank you so much for being on and being transparent about your story.
Well, thank you for having me, Steve. I really do appreciate it.
One last thing, because you've given us so many great nuggets. What's one tip that you can leave the audience that can help them in their journey?
I would say just always keep in mind that the world looks different depending on where you sit. So